Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to week 4 here in CE 155, Facility Layout and Design. Chef Suzanne and I welcome you to another fine live session here. It's going to be a cool class tonight. I really get into back of the house design, and we're going to get heavily into all those issues. Anicia was just talking about that she has a hard time conceptualizing some of this information, and I think we're going to be able to explain that a little bit better. Hi, Chef Suzanne. How are you? Yeah. So it's week 4 already. I can't believe we've already accomplished 3 weeks, and we have 3 weeks to go. So we are at the halfway point. Is anybody picking up any good information out there so far? Anything? Yeah. So everybody's getting a little bit out of this, right? Yeah. That's important. So we are at the halfway house. How did everybody like week 3? Any feedback? No? Mona's shaking her head no. April's like so-so. Lynn's up there going half-half. What about you, Aaron? Yeah, kind of?
Yeah.
Hi,
yeah, I liked it. Good ideas.
Yeah? I think the front of the house is a really misunderstood thing, especially by culinarians. And it's amazing in today's world, so many of you will work your way into a position that we call chef and B. Chef and B is a pretty popular position these days, especially saves money. Chefs are generally very good leaders, so they have us take over the front of the house as well. And a lot of chefs get into that role of chef and B, chef food and beverage manager, without too much knowledge of the front of the house. So take advantage of what you guys are learning in this class. It's going to be extremely vital information that's going to carry you. How'd you guys like working on that mood board? Ben, how'd you like it? Do you like it?
It was a little challenging.
Yeah?
A little challenging, but I enjoyed the experience and learning.
Yeah, it's odd. I think trying to design a front of the house. We're so food driven and we're so operational driven in the back of the house in the kitchen that oftentimes we don't put thought into what goes into the front of the house, and it can be a real brain tease to lay all of this information out. So it's not the easiest thing in the world. Trust me, once you get it down though, you'll be rocking and rolling. Chef Suzanne, how'd you like week 3?
I enjoyed it very much. I saw some great mood boards. That's my favorite part of this whole course. I love the mood boards. I love to see the light fixtures and the outsides of food trucks I've never seen, because people, they find the best pictures, because I know sometimes I don't get what I'm doing, but I'll be looking at their mood boards and I'll be like, oh, that one is great. And I'll be like, oh, wait. It'll be like all crazy giggly about some of these pictures, but there's some pretty good pictures on there.
Yeah. I noticed a couple of them that were outstanding. Ladies and gents, you all have to realize that you're going to have to see a lot of restaurants. You're going to have to see a lot of dining rooms and a lot of kitchens until you can absolutely visualize your own. Don't go out and create your own restaurant or your own dining room based on the experience of just a couple of restaurants. Get out there and see everything. So the more mood boards you create, the more in-depth your restaurant will be. And becoming a chef in culinary school, you're going to learn a lot about techniques. You're going to learn a lot of recipes. You all have been through CA 102, where we learn how to make rice pilaf, risotto, dauphinoise potatoes, right across the board. A chef is going to take those techniques and create them in their own style with their own flavors, et cetera, et cetera. That's the same thing that we do when we develop restaurants. In this course, you're learning the basics, the basic techniques that we use to create front of the house, back of the house, conceptualize. Once you get out there with some experience underneath your belt, you're going to be able to tear it up because you will have developed your own style. Chef Suzanne, you mentioned a couple of outstanding students this week, some submissions, and I brought one up here on the screen that I was really impressed about. Suzette Curtis is one that you mentioned. What impressed you about this assignment?
Everything. She just went, she jumped in with both feet. She had a vision, and she went with it. She took into account waiting area, multiple bars, outside seating. She went above and beyond, but this was her vision. So this is what she wanted, and so this is what she was seeing in her head, and this is what she did. It's got a great flow to it. It's not crowded, but yet there's tons of seating. So I liked the thought that she put into it.
So do I, and I really some of the things that I picked up on that were really impressive were like the location of the restrooms near the bar area, which is critical. When you have people drinking, restrooms are a pretty handy thing to have nearby up here in the corner. This entrance, which is centrally located, which feeds the entire restaurant for operational purpose. I was really impressed by that. I've also noticed that she has several hand sinks located throughout the dining room, which were really impressive. So hats off to Suzette Curtis for rocking the house on that one. There was another one too that I think really stood out. You were talking about mood boards here just a moment ago, and this was done by Emily McKenzie, and I think it was pretty impressive. What impressed you, Chef Suzanne?
I know I looked at it because I'm the one that pointed it out. Her mood board, was it catering? Was that where hers was?
Yeah.
And some of the pictures she got, you can just look at it and go like, I know exactly the type of event that is. I can see that in my mind. And so that, she had a vision, and she found the pictures that really spoke to her about her inspirations on what she's thinking for her events.
Yeah, when I looked at it, I immediately knew what she wanted to do, how she wanted to do it, what style she wanted to do, and what her intentions were. And I was really, really impressed with that. So hats off to Emily on another great job. Hats off to Suzette. Those are some prime examples. Those mood boards, I know they're not the most exciting things, but Chef Suzanne, you can certainly attest to this. I don't know how many different plates of food you had to look at until you developed your own style of garnishing, your own style of flavors. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So get out, ladies and gentlemen, and give yourselves a lot of exposure. Read industry magazines, dine out as much as you can, make friends at other restaurants, get back there, check things out. The more exposure you have in this industry, the better off you're going to be. So highly recommended. Back in the house this week, moving on to week 4. It's kind of exciting. We are designing the back of the house, the heart of the house, the heartbeat of the home. This is where all the action takes place back in the kitchen. I wanted to share with you before we get going too far here, just take a quick look at our class page to make sure that everybody is on the same page this week. Taking a look at week 4. I hope, is anybody taking a look at these little videos up here, these intro videos? Lynn, I put a lot of effort into those, so we gotta make sure we see those things. It's that's like a minute and a half recording, not that long, but 45 seconds or so. Make sure you check those out each week. Little tidbits about what's coming up that week kind of helps put it in the back of your head, so you can start planning yourself out a little bit. We've got our research materials here for the back of the house design. Take advantage of them. There's a lot of thought process that goes into the back of the house design. We also have our live session tonight, Thursday, September the 6th at 7:30 p.m. If you happen to miss it, don't forget the live session. And then down here, we have our kitchen layout tool, because we will be working with our facility layout tool again. The facility layout tool, just for your knowledge, if you happen to have lost your copy, there's an additional copy available in week 1. So don't forget that it's there. And then you have your back of the house example down here, which we're going to get to here in just a couple of moments. April, what's going on? You had a question?
I'm already unmuted. My question, throughout tonight's meeting, can you show how to enlarge that box? Because I tried everything, so I just tried to put everything into that little box.
Oh, I see. On your on the facility layout tool?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll show you how to expand the dimensions of the kitchen facility. So if anyone else had that problem, certainly pay attention to that one. Anicia, did you have a question?
Yeah, I have a question. I had the same problem with trying to expand because I was having a hard time seeing. I go, it's too small. I couldn't. It's like I couldn't read it or anything. It was like maybe they'll tell us, tonight, how. And I had the same question she did.
All right.
That's all.
So there's a couple of answers. Number one, last week during class, during the live session, we reviewed that on how to move all those things. If you ever get stuck, you can always go back and watch the live session archive. Just scroll to the point where we're discussing that information. That'll help you out. Number two, if you ever do have that challenge, pick up the phone. Our phone numbers are on the left-hand side or right-hand side of the class page. My number is 520-276-6281. Give me a call. I'll walk you through it. Shoot me a text. Shoot me an email. We'll help you out. And then number three, tonight we will go over that information in detail once again to help you out. So that should take care of everything for everybody. Does that answer your question? We all good? All right. Moving on. Before we actually start the creating our back of the house environment, we have to have a thorough conception in our mind about what that is. Most of you have completed that, so you're all in good shape. But designing a kitchen is not just putting a stove in there, some triple sinks, and a hood system. There's so much more that goes into the creation. This is where you're going to be spending the bulk of your time as a chef. You have to create your environment on a multitude of different things. And some of those things include, number one, like we talked about, footsteps, right? Every footstep in a kitchen costs you money. Every time a cook takes a step, it's going to cost you money, right? So you need to limit the amount of steps that cook is walking around the kitchen. Chef Suzanne, how many steps did you say your husband was taking? He's an executive chef, correct?
He is a kitchen manager, executive chef at a hospital, and he can easily do 20,000 steps in a day, easily.
Right. Absolutely. So as we begin to think about this, as we begin to conceptualize our kitchen, footsteps are a critical thing, right? So you don't want your cook having to go from the grill to the walk-in to get a steak, to come back, to put the grill on, to cook it, to go to the dish area, to get a plate, to put the steak on the plate, and then have to send it out to the dining room. We have to get everything in smaller, more condensed areas. So the grill, we're going to put a piece of refrigeration underneath it. That'll have a drawer, a low boy, serve our steak. So that's part of our mentality that we want to work with too. Operational flow is huge in a kitchen. It doesn't seem like it, but there is a definite flow of everything in our kitchen. You have to think about the flow of food, right? We just talked about that steak, right? Where's the steak? When you receive the steak, where's that steak going to go? When that steak is ready to be used, where's it going to go next? When that steak is ready to be cooked, where's it going to go? So you have to design the flow of that piece of food, all of your food throughout your kitchen, so it's easily accessible. It can be stored properly, right? And your cooks aren't walking all over the kitchen, and that's a big, big issue. It's same thing with your cooks on the line when they're working on the hotline. Can you imagine every time you went to plate a dish, you had to go and get the plate? That would drive me nuts. So, I mean, if you're doing 100 covers a night and you're having to go back and forth between your dish area 100 times, you're gonna burn out. So we have to design areas for proper storage for our china, for our glassware, for everything. So you really have to think it through. Another big issues in kitchens, and it's not so applicable to this assignment. However, it's very applicable to those of you that are considering the restaurant industry as ownership. Utilities are a huge issue in the restaurant business, especially in the kitchen. Does anybody have any idea what the industry average is for utilities per square foot? No? It's about $3.75 per square foot is what utilities run for a restaurant, right? So if you have 1,000 square foot kitchen alone, just the kitchen alone, you'll pay $37.50 a month in electric and gas, right? That's huge money. So we have to be very conscientious when you guys are working on your assignment this week. Don't be putting reach-in refrigerators next to your grills. Don't be putting pizza prep tables on your hotline unless it's absolutely necessary for operational purposes, because those utility bills drag restaurants down. They are tremendous. $37.50 a month. If you are charging your average customer $10, right, to come into your restaurant, and you're paying $3,750 a month in electric, that means the first 370 people that come in your restaurant every month are there, and they're only paying your electric bill, right? So you really have to be very, very conscientious about that. Also, when it comes to designing your kitchen, the back of the house space, there are people you don't want in your kitchen, right? People such as servers, busboys, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm not being rude, but they disrupt operational flow in the kitchen. And you don't want a busboy walking down your hotline so he can access glassware from the kitchen, from the dish area. It can be a complete disaster. You will have fist fights, I guarantee you. So when you design, look at Warren down there. He's like, yep, I know what you're talking about, man. You don't want the servers in your kitchen. However, servers need to access the area in the kitchen for their service areas and for their plates, to the expo station, etc. So you need to design the flow of your kitchen so people can come in, grab their food, access the dish area, get out. We have a standard rule of thumb in the kitchen, in the restaurant industry. We never walk around empty-handed, especially for the front of the house. If you see a server coming back in your kitchen and they're not bringing something dirty with them, kick them out, right? Because there's always something that needs to go back to the dish area. You've got to keep that flow going. If you don't create the operational space in your kitchen, it's going to be a mess.
Full hands in, full hands out.
I love it. That is right on the money, right? So we never want to be walking around with empty hands. That is the curse of death. How many of you have been in a restaurant and you have like an empty plate in front of you, an empty wine glass, let's say, and somebody walks by your table? Correct, proper service is that when that service staff member, there you go, Warren, when that service staff walks by the table, they should pick up that stemware, they should pick up that other stuff, et cetera, et cetera. Warren, did you have a question?
Comment, which you were just talking about. When I go into a restaurant, the server's tip is at a certain percentage right off the bat.
Correct.
The server themselves determine whether that percentage stays there or goes down.
Correct. That's absolutely correct.
Your other statement about the line, we have our kitchen set up where servers have access to the expo side of the line with their coolers, and they have access to the dish pit, and they can go around. But one of our rules is the servers are not allowed on the line, period, on the cook side.
No, we don't like that. Absolutely. Yeah. One of the reasons we don't like servers back in the dish area, it's not that we don't like them as people. I mean, there are coworkers, they're very involved in the success of the restaurant. We all have the same common goal. We're all there to work with each other. However, when you're rocking out on the line with a saute pan and you're turning and twisting, and the next thing you know, you turn around and you bump into a server, it gets messy and it slows things down. So there's a lot of reasons we don't want them back in the kitchen. However, just remember that when you get into industry, the front of the house is a critical part of the success of the operation. You're all there to work together. You're all there to make a very successful experience for the guest. So you have to really keep that in mind. In my younger days, I've tossed a few servers, and it just made things rough for the remainder of the night. And so we had to change our ways a little bit. Getting back to what we were talking about here just a moment ago, another big concern that we have in the kitchen is lighting, and a lot of people don't put that into thought. And that's one big part of our electrical bill. Lighting, you have to have shatterproof bulbs. You have to have shatterproof covers over your fluorescent bulbs. In your hood systems, you have to have shatterproof covers as well for your lighting. You have to have a certain amount of luminaries in kitchens. I can't tell you how many kitchens I've taken over, and they've got no luminaries in there, which are the amount of light that's given off by the light bulbs and you can't see what you're doing. You can't see the dirt, the grease, the grime. So definitely put some thought process into that. And then I know Chef Suzanne will jump on this wagon, but something a lot of people don't think about in the restaurant industry is the plumbing that goes into a kitchen. The plumbing in a kitchen, probably, we've all got thousands of stories of bad plumbing in kitchen, and there's nothing like standing in 2 feet of storage on a Saturday night with 10 tickets hanging, right? That's Chef Suzanne. How am I doing with this one?
You are right on the nose. One of the last places I worked, they had such bad plumbing issues over the years from equipment leaking, steam wells and things, that the concrete had worn down, and it reminded me of like a cobblestone street on the line. It was like just round. It was pretty as could be. If it was like on my patio, I'd have loved it. But you don't want to walk on that, and you just looked at it and knew something has gone seriously wrong for a really long time to make concrete look like this.
Ladies and gents, there are certain corners you don't want to cut in the construction of a restaurant, and plumbing is one of them. Mark my words. There are a lot of regulations for plumbing in kitchens. Triple sinks, for example, and many other sinks cannot have direct connects. They have to have baskets with airflow to prevent backflow into the actual sinks. So that's a really big deal, the plumbing issues in kitchens. So you want to be very cognizant of that. Something else that a lot of people stop to consider when they are designing a back of the house kitchen is a restroom for your staff members. And the reason for that is it sets a certain image in your head when you walk in and you notice in the stall that there's an apron on the floor with a pair of chef shoes, right? It just kind of sets the mood for the remainder of the meal. So we like to segregate ourselves, and we have our own restrooms in the back of the house. It's if you are able to do that, it's highly recommended. It really creates a clean visual for your guests, really enhances their experience. It really unenhances when we don't. Can't tell you how many times I've been using the restroom at a restaurant. A service staff member runs in there, uses the restroom, and leaves without washing their hands. Man, does that set the overtone for the night? That can be kind of a mess. Another thing that's not so applicable to this assignment, but something you need to be very cognizant of when you are working in the back of the house, is your HVAC system. We talked about average utilities run about $3.75 a square foot. The more square footage you have, the more utilities you are going to pay, and a big culprit of that is your HVAC system. HVAC stands for heating, ventilation, and air conditioning systems. Kitchens are notoriously hot. We have a lot of hot equipment burning back there. The hotter that environment is, the harder your refrigeration is working, the more wear and tear you put onto your cooks. So it does a lot of damage to your environment. I worked on a hotline one time that averaged 128 degrees. We used to wear ice towels over our heads to keep us going on a 12-hour shift. It was brutal, but those types of things don't exist anymore. But you need to be very conscientious of that. Are you going to use a swamp cooler, which most restaurants do for cost efficiency, to keep that kitchen cool? Some areas, I think Erin said she was in Tennessee. I know it gets a little humid back there. So swamp coolers aren't so effective. So you might want to have to turn to air conditioning like we do out here in Tucson. But that's a big chunk of change on a 1,000 square foot kitchen per month. So you need to be very, very conscientious of that. Something else a lot of people don't take up into consideration. We talked about hoods, didn't we? Right? Hood systems, where they takes the smoke out of the kitchen off your stoves and everything else. Well, guess what? When air goes out, air has to come in, right? It's, give and take. And so we have systems in all commercial kitchens that are called makeup air. And I don't know if anybody's ever been in a restaurant where the door to the kitchen is continuously opening on its own, like there's a ghost or something like that. And what that means is that their air system is out of balance. Restaurant air systems are very technical and very, very touchy. And people need to be very, very careful when working with those systems, because you have a big draw coming out of the kitchen, out through that hood system. You have 40, 50 cubic feet of air going out of your kitchen every minute, or 40, 50,000 cubic feet of air going out of your kitchen every minute. you have to be pumping that air in, otherwise you're going to draw all the air out of your dining room. And that's always seems to be an afterthought in so many restaurants that I've been involved in. Before we get into the technical details of this week's assignment, kitchen equipment, when you're laying your assignment out this week, it is required that when you install kitchen equipment, that it be maintained or it be placed in an area that is cleanable. And what that means, do you have access to the back of the equipment, to the side of the equipment? If it's on casters, little wheels, it's not required to access the back or the sides because you can roll it out. However, if you don't have little wheels on your equipment, casters, then you have to provide a cleanable area, access to be able to clean that equipment. And that's a code that goes from New York all the way to Los Angeles. We have to be able to clean the kitchen at some point in time. I don't care if you don't plan on getting grease behind your stove, as Chef Suzanne will attest. It gets back there. It gets everywhere, doesn't it? I go home and I'm greasy, right? So you have to plan that kind of stuff out. Always check with your local authorities. There are a lot of health codes. Hand sinks, for example. You can't just put a hand sink in a kitchen, right? A lot of times those hand sinks are required to have splash guards. They have to be, if they don't have a splash guard, they have to be a minimum of 18 inches away from the nearest food preparation surface. So there's a lot of little details that go in to this. It gets very, very expensive when you don't pay attention to local regulatory authorities. Because if you, for example, install a triple sink without proper drainage, without an airflow gap and a basket underneath it, then guess what? You've got to call a plumber to get out and crack that concrete, and you're talking thousands of dollars in repairs. So think it through. Something else that people oftentimes don't think about when it comes to developing back of the houses. Guess what we generate a lot of? Garbage, right? Isn't that right, Chef Suzanne? Yeah, honest.
I generate a lot of garbage in my house. So
I know.
You know, it's so easy to overlook it though. And trash cans take up space.
Yep.
And not planning that in advance, and then you have to trip over trash cans in a kitchen is awful.
Yep.
Awful.
So if you think about this conservatively, right? If you had 200 people come over to your house for a little dinner party, right? On a Saturday night, 200 of your closest friends, how much trash are they going to generate, right? A lot. And then imagine doing that in a restaurant where you're receiving cases of food, the food that you doesn't make it to the disposal. I mean, the list goes on and on. So trash is a huge issue in garbage. And then also something a lot of people don't think about. Once that trash goes out your back door, number one, where's it going, right? And then number two, what's it going to smell like? Here in Tucson, Arizona, which is closer to hell than it is to heaven because of the heat, right? We have problems with garbage that smells. And so we have to have special equipment that pumps deodorizers into our garbage cans to keep that fragrance nice and clean for our customers. And so these are some of the other things that you have to think of. Beyond the back door, right? All that kitchen equipment, right? You've got floor mats, you've got ovens, stoves, stuff that you wheel outside on casters. Where are you going to clean it? Where are you going to keep all of your mop buckets? Where are you going to hang all your mops, your brooms? Where are you going to wash? So you have to create these areas. It's very, very important. So, on to the next question. Hang on one sec. On to the next question. Drop my papers. On to the next question. How big of a kitchen do you need? Okay. You have to remember, we just talked about utilities. We pay everything by the square foot, right? You pay rent by the square foot. Your utilities, you're going to end up calculating them out by the square footage. So you have to be very conscientious. You don't want a kitchen too big or too small. Okay. So remember last week we talked about the fact that we want our dining room to be 60%. We want our kitchen to be about 40% of the total square footage that is used in a restaurant. General rule of thumb that we work with in the industry when it comes to designing back of the house is we want about 5 to 7 square feet of kitchen space per seat. Did everybody get that? Because that will be used in this week's assignment. 5 to 7 square feet of kitchen space per seat in your dining room. The 7 would be a little bit more for fine dining because you're going to have additional prep areas back there. You're probably going to have a garde manger station and a dessert station. Whereas the 5 square feet would be used for a smaller cafe where you're just doing breakfast, or a bakery type facility where things are a little bit more condensed in space. So general rule of thumb, if you have a 100-seat restaurant, your kitchen is going to be anywhere between 500 and 700 square feet. So that's just kind of the general rule of thumb. It depends a lot on the type of equipment that you're using, the quantity of equipment that you're using, and how complicated your menu is to prep. So hopefully everybody understands that. Once again, it's 5 to 7 square feet of kitchen space per seat in your dining room. The average kitchen size in the United States, believe it or not, is about 1,050 square feet. I've run kitchens that are upwards of 4,000 square feet. What a luxury. But you know what? Just like your house, the more space you have, the more of a mess you make, right? Am I right, Chef Suzanne? You feel my pain, right? 4,000 square foot kitchen, you are talking forever to clean, right? There's a lot, is that correct?
Absolutely correct.
Yeah. And you know what? We all love big cars, big houses, and everything else. Don't take that mentality into your restaurant. You have to remember you're doing what's best for your business. So about 1,000 square feet is the average size in the United States for a kitchen. Check this out. The average construction cost on a kitchen per square foot in the United States is right around $275 a square foot, right? So they are not cheap. So you're talking right around $275,000 just for a 1,000 square foot kitchen. And guess what? The majority of that expense is not on equipment. It's on plumbing, gas, flooring, hood systems, HVAC systems, et cetera, et cetera. So kitchens can be a little bit expensive. Sometimes when you do pick up a secondhand facility or a place such as that, it will be a little bit less expensive. But then again, that comes with some of the challenges of a used facility, right? Kitchen food trucks, for those of you that are kind of in the food truck frame of mind out there, you know, you're talking getting into a semi-decent food truck right around $50,000. That's kind of a small condensed kitchen, but don't forget you have to have a commissary kitchen. That commissary kitchen would be very applicable to this assignment to design that and lay that out as well. So moving on to some of the meat and bones of this week's assignment. We want to talk about some critical spaces that are in the kitchen that you need to make sure that you include. And in our kitchen here, let me pull this up for you. Hopefully large enough that you can see. We need to make sure that on your assignment this week that you include all of these critical spaces. The first thing that we work with on our kitchen design is we're coming from the dining room. So we need to have an entrance and an exit, right? Indoor and an outdoor. That can be one door that's double-sided, you know, swing, or we could have, you know, one going in and one going out. That's a critical thing in the kitchen. Another door that you're going to need is you're going to need to have a door somewhere towards the rear of your restaurant, preferably for receiving, shipping, employees coming in and out of the door, cleaning purposes, that type of thing. So don't forget to include that door in your diagram this week. Dish area, critical part of the restaurant. Dish area is you're going to want to locate that dish area somewhere near the entrance and exit of your kitchen from the dining room. The reason for that is number one, your servers are going to come in, they're going to drop in the dish area, and they are going to pick up from the dish area as well. So things are being washed over here, and then they're going to be stocked in your additional areas. So one of the slides that I wanted to show you this week was for a typical dish area. so people could get a feeling for that, about some of the equipment that you're looking at. This is a smaller, more condensed picture of a dish area here, with a corner machine, and then it's got the table that servers will come in. Generally, they should be segregated and organized in a restaurant where you put your plates, your silverware with pre-soak, etc. This bar up here is where we have glass racks, right? So your dirty glassware will be put into those racks. Dishwashers will pull it over the side, run it through the machine. And then you notice right here, there is a door that will be either in or out of the kitchen. So it's conveniently located for the service staff, makes life easy. This is a real small condensed dish area right here. This setup, super cool though, storage for glass racks right here, or flat racks, and a slide machine. Down here throughout this course and in your career, you will hear a lot about triple sinks, right? Triple sinks, wash, rinse, sanitize, wash, rinse, sanitize, 110 degrees, cold water. You will wash, rinse, and sanitize wherever you go. Most dish areas, most restaurants have those. So certainly plan on keeping those around. They're very, very critical. And you're gonna wanna build that into your kitchen this week. Another really critical area for the restaurant kitchen that you need to put in, you have an entrance, right? You want those cooks or service staff to come in, pick up their food or drop off their dirty dishes, pick up their food and get out, right? So we have what we call the expo line, which would be this area right here. So as the cooks prepare their food, they put the food into the window right here underneath these heat lamps, right? And the service staff comes in, picks it up, takes it out, or there's an expo chef right here that is expediting the food onto trays, and they take it out into the dining room. Let's take a look at a expo area here. This is a typical expo area in a restaurant. You'll see that there's china stored down here. This is the area that the servers will approach to pick up their food. These panels up here are hot heat lamps that keep the food warm while they're waiting for the service staff, and hopefully they're not waiting too long. And then as the cooks need plates, the service staff will pick them up, put them into the window, or the expo chef right here. Directly behind it is what we call the hotline. The hotline is very critical. That is where you are going to have your broiler station, your grill, your fryer, your saute, your flat tops, your assembly area, and that area is right in here. This is where the chefs actually cook all of your food a la minute or to order in this general area right here. That's where you're also going to find your salamander and other equipment that we're going to get into here in just a few moments. Generally down here on this end, we have what we call our pantry station. You need to have an area that's segregated from your hotline to prepare things like all your cold foods, right? Your salads, your cold appetizers, your desserts, et cetera, will generally come out of this area right here. So that's extremely important. And another really, really important area is our production area. I forgot to show you this picture of the hotline. We'll show it to you real quick. Hotlines can be very condensed with equipment, very close together. Once again, we talked about lack of, we don't want too many footsteps going on in that kitchen back and forth. So if I can have one guy on the broiler station that can turn, grab his mise en place, turn around, put it onto the grill, cook it, and then turn around and put it back onto a plate, he's not taking any steps, he's just turning, right? So that makes it quick and efficient. The closer my equipment is, the better my equipment is laid out. That means during slow periods, I can have one guy that works the line versus having 2 or 3 chefs up there because that line is so big. This is a good, nice line right here. This is a cheese melter, kind of a salamander with various equipment from a fryer down to a Rationale oven down at the bottom. Prep area. Then a traditional prep area, which is traditionally behind the hotline or wherever it can fit in a kitchen, is a larger, a little bit more of an open space with these prep tables in it, various prep equipment such as convection ovens, large mixers, kettles, Swiss kettles, burners, stock pot burners, some reach-in refrigeration, some hood systems. This is where all of your foods are going to be prepared. You're going to cook off all your rice pilaf for the week. You're going to cook your beans for the week, et cetera, in bulk, your bulk preparation of foods. And this is another smaller area. Chef Suzanne, how many inches in a restaurant do we use?
How many inches do we use?
We use them all, don't we?
We use them all, yeah.
Yeah. Take a look at this prep area, ladies and gentlemen. Every inch of the area is used, and I love it. This is a brilliantly laid out area. The ceiling, right? They've got all of their, they've got pots, pans, smallwares hanging from the ceiling. They've got electrical cords coming down from the ceiling because you don't want them on the floor, so you don't want people tripping. They've got shelving high and low, right? People like me, man, I love that high shelving, right? I keep all my mise en place up there because I'm over 6 feet tall. So that's where all my stuff goes. Chef Suzanne's like,
And then I go and find the tall chef.
Or you could be like my wife that walks around the kitchen with a milk crate so she can get up and down.
I have learned to use tongs. I can get just about anything down from a high shelf in a kitchen with a tong or a ladle.
I'd love that attitude. You know what? You are a chef, because you know what? 90% of the people in this world, when they see something too high, they're like, oh, forget it. A chef, they'll get that thing down, hell or high water, right?
Yep.
I love that. That's awesome. So that prep area, I'll show you where that goes here real quick. In the back of the house. Prep area is going to be back in this area, generally on the back side of the kitchen, conveniently located next to your storage areas, right? The reason for that is we talked about operational flow, correct? So you're going to go into your walk-in, right? And then you're going to grab your product. You're going to take it to your prep area. You're going to prep it out, and then it can go either to the hotline or it can go back into the walk-in. So it's just a limitation of footsteps, and it just saves a lot of time. Dry storage areas, for those of you that haven't seen them before, are an often afterthought for a lot of restaurants. I've used closets. I've used a multitude of different things for storerooms in kitchens. When we buy things in restaurants, we don't just buy a can of, we don't buy just a pound of, we buy 50, we buy 6 number 10s, we buy in bulk, right? I mean, in order to have a semi that backs up to your restaurant to unload, you're gonna have to spend a few bucks. And that's why we need these dry storage areas. You know, just as a side note, all storage, you cannot store anything on the floor in a restaurant. It has to be a minimum of 6 inches up off the floor. These garbage cans back here are not garbage cans. They're actually on wheels, and they store flour, rice, other grains in those products. Down here with these white tubs, the same thing as well. Here is a picture of a chemical storage area. That needs to be thought about as well when you're designing your restaurant. You cannot store chemicals in your dry storage area. It's against the law. Food and chemicals are just bad, right? So we wanna make sure that we provide for those areas in order to prevent any type of cross-contamination happening. So some of the other areas in the kitchen that you're gonna need to work on this week. An often afterthought for many restaurants that I've been involved in are the service areas. Service staff, if you do not provide them an area to work in your kitchen, they will overtake your environment. They are like bacteria. They grow, right? So most restaurants have an actual service area, and it's generally at the entry to the kitchen. You'll store ice machines in there. Don't forget your ice machines in this example, people. It's restaurants go through 500 to 1,000 pounds of restaurant on a nightly basis. It's a tremendous amount. Service staff needs an area to brew coffee, to brew tea, to store lemons, to store creamers. Give them their space that will save a lot of area. And I know Chef Suzanne is chomping at the bit about this next little item, and that would be hand sinks. Am I right? You're just waiting on that.
Hand sinks and trash cans are, I gotta, that's one of the, I think it's normally the first thing I look for.
Yeah. Hand sinks are critical. And basically what you want to think when you're designing a kitchen is each designated area needs to have a designated hand sink. Okay. So if you have a prep area, you're going to have a hand sink in the prep area. If you have a dish area, you are going to have a hand sink in the dish area. If you have an expo area or a service staff area, you will have a hand sink in that area, right? Hotline needs to have easy access. You do not want to put a hand sink on your hotline because generally there's not enough space, so it'll be at one end or the other end of the hotline. Don't put it next to your deep fryer. Doesn't work out real well in the long run. So, you know, put some thought into that. So you need to definitely have that. Yeah. Very critical piece of information. Does anybody have any questions so far? April, do you have another question? How about David right there? David, unmute yourself. What's going on?
Hola. I want to go back to the ventilation. My concept was a food truck, and I've been trying to think outside of the box. So my idea was, you know, I wanted to have like little lockers or like warming lockers. So like my concept was to be out at nightclubs. You know, people could order their food through an app, and they got 15 minutes to pick it up. When I close that door, you know, they'll get a little buzz on their phone, let them know their food is ready, to try to keep down the traffic outside, you know, outside and in front. But I also divert the heat from my appliances to warm the food that's in those lockers. Is that a violation of any type of code or anything like that?
No, what the code is going to require is a maintained temperature, and generally that temperature across the board is 140 degrees or 145 degrees, depending on which part of the country you're in. So where that heat source comes from, I don't think they're too concerned about it. I think what they're concerned about, can it maintain that temperature at a consistent rate throughout the night? So that's an awesome concept. So they get like a little code to open up the locker, and their food will be in there.
Yeah. What's gonna happen is because I deal with a lot of technical stuff. So what it'll do is it'll generate like a 3 or 4 digit code, and you know, they pay for it through their app. So they won't even see me. So they basically pay for it, and they'll sign like a little disclaimer saying you got 15 minutes to pick up your food. Within 5 minutes, they'll get like a second notification. You know, come get your food because it's waiting. So all they do is walk up, put the little pin in there, the locker will open up, they take their food out, close the locker, and that's it. So
I've heard of 1 or 2 concepts. I know there's one in Japan that does something similar to that, but that's a totally cool concept. I wish you luck with that. That's really neat. Yeah. Who else has a question? Lynn, were you raising your hand? Lynn, what you got going on?
Actually, it was more of a comment.
I
was noticing that example back of the house that you were showing us. You don't see any trash cans in there.
Oh, you will here in just a moment. Yeah.
Okay.
We saved the best for last in CE 155. And I know if I didn't have trash cans, Chef Suzanne she'd reach through this monitor right away. Yeah. Because it's on a very serious note, it's a very, very critical part of designing the kitchen. So it is big business.
I noticed the hand sinks, but not the garbage cans.
Garbage cans will be there. Absolutely. What about April? Did we answer your question already? Hey, you did? What about Aaron? What's going on, Aaron?
What do you guys do with oil? I'm having issues figuring out what to do with our old oil.
Check it out. This will freak you out. Okay. In a lot of restaurants, okay, the majority of restaurants, that we have large recycling containers on the back dock. The back area of a restaurant we refer to as a dock, and we recycle that oil. So we take it out at the end of the shift or throughout the shift and fill up this large 50-gallon container with our used oil products. And guess where those products go? The majority of the time it gets sold to the cosmetic industry after it gets refined. And they turn it into shampoo, lipstick, and all these other things. So you could be walking around with last week's Big Mac. I don't know. But generally that service is provided free or at a nominal cost. So you just need to go ahead and look in the phone book. Do they still have phone books? Do they have those things? Yeah, for a grease disposal company. And they'll provide you with a container. You fill up the container. They generally come on a scheduled monthly basis, depending on the volume of your facility. So,
Great, thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else have any questions? Anyone? Check it out. Let's roll on to this week's assignment so we can get a good understanding of what we're talking about. We're going to take a look at the facility tool. We're going to address some of those comments from earlier this evening regarding how to resize this assignment. Just taking a look at the assignment real quick before we get to that point. This is on slide 2 in your facility layout tool. You're going to look at week 4. You're going to be repeating the week 3 process or back of the house using the items in the right margin. So just like you did last week with the front of the house, you're going to be doing this week with the back of the house. And we're going to have all your equipment. We're going to get to that here in just a moment. So we're going to be taking a look at slide 3 or slide 4 this week, and then slide 5 as well if you're doing a food truck. So basically to relocate the walls to create a larger size for this, you just simply drag, right, and expand, if you want to make it larger or smaller, whatever the case is going to be. So you're going to click on the object and then drag it to where you want to take it. Does that make sense? Okay, so I'm moving the wall back, and then I'm going to make the wall small again just by going up to the little blue dot, and I'm going to click on that dot, and then I'm going to bring it down, and boom, it's right back to the same size. So if I want to move, say, this wall down here at the bottom, I just left click on it. I'm going to drag it down to wherever I want to place it. If I want to make it really large, if I've got a big budget, I'm going to draw it all the way out. Lynn, what's going on? Lynn, did you have a question?
I'm watching you do that.
Okay.
In other words, we'd have to move each individual wall to make it bigger.
That's the way life goes.
Okay.
Yep. Whether you're doing it at home or...
I thought maybe there was a trick to just making the whole thing bigger.
There is the auto expansion. The auto expansion key is off out there. Aaron, what was your question? Did you have one? Okay. Did anybody else have a question out there? Warren, what's your question? Who's up? Who's on deck? All right. Let's go to, let's Anicia, what's your question? Anicia? Okay, no Anicia. How about Yvette? What's going on there, Yvette?
Okay, now I know you might get to this yourself already, but how do we do this if our concept is using a shared kitchen because we're catering?
You're still going to have to create that's a great question, but you're still going to have to create a layout and a design on how you would like that shared kitchen to be. Okay. The shared kitchen is not going to have a lot of the elements that we have discussed, such as a hotline. So you're going to need to make sure that you clarify this information with Chef Suzanne. So when you submit the assignment, she's going to have a clear understanding of what you are trying to do.
Because I know the concept that I showed Chef Suzanne, I mean, they have a really nice layout inside the kitchen, and they have separate areas for you to put your personal equipment in. So that's why I was kind of wondering, how do I set up the layout the way they kind of have their kitchen, and where I'd want to put my personal stuff?
That would be fine. Is that fine, Chef Suzanne?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. Okay. Yvette, you just need to make sure that when you submit this assignment, that Chef Suzanne is well aware of what you are trying to do. because if she takes a look at it from a layman's standpoint of view, you know, according to the rubric, you're going to have some concerns. However, if you make a mention to her, hey, I'm working on a shared kitchen, this is how I want to do it. So.
Okay, thank you.
Cool? Does anybody else have any questions out there before I go back?
I think I saw Warren's hand up. Did he leave?
Warren! Where's Warren?
I think he disappeared. He literally was just here with his hand up.
He ran away. We scared him.
He was just telling us he was leaving. Maybe he's waving goodbye.
Could be. Yeah. Could be. Let's go back to our assignment real quick here. So we learned how we just click on the wall that we want to move, click and drag it to wherever we want to take it. Down at the end of each wall, there's a blue dot. Right click or left click on that blue dot. You can expand it, shrink it, put it at any angle that you want to. So you can reshape this kitchen. And
Chef, can you also show how to enlarge the view? Just, you know, clicking on the little magnifier glass there up above the red number 1 there, the little.
Oh yeah.
I know some people were saying they're having a hard time seeing the screen, but if you enlarge it, you know, it's much easier.
Oh yeah. So you can. There is a button right up here. If you hover over it, it'll say zoom, and that will enlarge the diagram, which will make it a little bit easier for you to see. Does that help, Chef Suzanne?
I think so, because I know some folks have said they've had a hard time seeing it. So if they enlarge their screen and zoom in, they can see it better.
I can't see well anymore anyway, but I use that to my advantage.
I use it when I grade all the time, because sometimes, I mean, it's just as hard to see it when you're grading it as when you made it. So I will enlarge so that I can see, to make sure I can see what all the equipment is.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's a really good suggestion. So all I'm doing is I'm just clicking on the arrow, and then I can make it any size that I want for my convenience and the convenience.
I have a question.
Susan, yes, go ahead.
Yeah, the lines right here, what are those 2 lines?
The blue lines?
No, these right here.
I can't see what you're pointing to.
Oh, let me, on my phone. They're right, 1 here and 1 here. What are those?
Describe to me where they are. I can't see your phone.
Okay. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
They're on my laptop screen. They are on the black line on the left-hand side. They're like 2 lines together. What are those?
Oh, these right here? These ones that I'm circling?
I think she's talking about the windows on the left-hand side, maybe.
Oh.
Over here?
Right here, right.
These?
Yes.
Those would be windows.
Oh, okay.
Right.
I was wondering what those were.
Windows are good and bad in kitchens. There are certain things and times that you do not want people to see into your kitchen. However, they do provide a lot of natural light, which creates a little bit of a better work environment, and it also saves on electric bills because you don't have to pump as many luminaries in there. So it's recommended. Okay. So for this week's assignment, in this particular diagram, you've got your entrance and your exit to the kitchen right here. And then generally, a lot of people will like to do their dish area here. I recommend keeping it simple for this exercise. Don't get too crazy. Don't try to reinvent the kitchen because generally it can take, it doesn't work out so well. Kitchens have evolved over hundreds of years, and they kind of get to a point where they work because they work that way. So if you scroll over to the right-hand side of the page by clicking on this bar down here at the bottom, you can scroll over to your right-hand side. Now, this is the equipment that you can put in here. And we did have a comment a few moments ago, I think it was from April, I'm not sure, regarding the trash cans, right? This is the trash can icon right here. And you need to make sure that those are in appropriate spaces throughout the kitchen. Appropriate spaces, dish area, you have servers scraping stuff into the garbage cans, right? Prep areas, you're opening up boxes, unwrapping things, plastic, near the walk-ins, near receiving, any place that in the kitchen that trash is generated. You will left click on it, you will drag the trash can, you will drag the trash can up to the appropriate area, and then you will drop it. And then once you do that, you can click and copy on it. It's quite simple to do that. Then I'll show you how here in just a minute. Ranges, same thing. You'll have ranges on your hot side. You'll have ranges in your prep area. There's also the equipment if you want, Anicia, if you want additional windows in here. Hey, plenty of them here. You can replicate them. Metro racks are racks that we use for storage in the kitchen. Those will be applicable in your dry storage or other areas. Combi oven. A combi oven is Rationale is probably one of the bigger makes on the market. Those are ovens that steam, heat, reheat, wash your car, whatever you need to do. Those ovens are amazing. They're about $25,000 for a single unit. They do what we call retherm food, where if I plate a banquet on Monday that needs to be served on Tuesday, I can plate it, chill it, and then put it into the combi oven on Tuesday and tell it I want the rice at 145, I want the meat at 120, and I need the mashed potatoes at 110. Be able to take care of it. Wonderful pieces of equipment. So if you want to range in your kitchen, you're gonna left click on it, drag it to where you want it to go. And if you need two ranges, right, you'll right click on the object, you'll copy it, and then wherever you want to put it, you'll left click again and then hit paste. Now I have two ranges. I wish it was that easy in real life, right? The salamander, everyone knows what a salamander is, right? That's what we use to au gratin products to provide that nice brown effect on top of our foods. We want one of those on our hotline. If we want two of them, I right click on the object, I hit copy, then I left click, or I right click again and I hit paste, and there is the object. And I can make it, move it. If I want my ranges to be a little bit bigger or a little bit smaller, I can click and drag whatever I like. If you need to use equipment that is abnormally sized, right? You need to explain that to Chef Suzanne, where you're going to get it and how you're going to have it manufactured, because a lot of that stuff becomes very, very expensive. An array of additional equipment down here for your selection. Just remember the tool. You click, you drag, you drop. If you need multiple, you right click and then you hit copy, then you right click and you hit paste and you have more. So they multiply. Did I miss anything on that, Chef Suzanne?
I don't believe so. That was good. I'll just real quick go over some of the things that I for sure look for, just some tips and pointers. Hand sinks, trash cans, organized dish area, which is going to include the 3-compartment sink, for sure, and then dish racks, production area. Try to keep all of your hot equipment together, because like Chef talked about, that expense of the hood vents. Try and keep your hot equipment. If you have hot equipment in 4 different places, that is a whole lot of expense for those hood vents. Making sure you have areas for like pass-through areas for servers to pick up food, prep areas, refrigeration, plenty of refrigeration, so that you don't have just that walk-in cooler. You should have refrigeration on your line for your cooks to get in and out. Those are the, for sure, big things that I'm looking for.
Great points. Thanks for bringing that up. And then I want to take just a 1 second look at the actual assignment page this week. Make sure everybody understands. This is the Grady rubric right here. Make sure that you include a 1 to 2 sentence summary of your concept. So Chef Suzanne has a good understanding of what you're trying to do. Yvette was just talking about, hey, I want to use a shared kitchen. Make sure you communicate that with Chef Suzanne so she knows exactly what's going on. And then 10% includes hand sinks, appropriate areas as needed. We've talked about that over and over again tonight. Critical. The trash cans, you got to have them. You've got to be there. Dish areas, organized, efficiently located. Make sure that dish area is near the entrance to your kitchen, but not at the door, because they do make a lot of noise, and that noise travels into your dining room, and there's nothing like a $50 steak with the sound of a singing dishwasher in the back. It's just not pleasant. 20% production area is organized, flows efficiently. That's your prep area in the back. Make sure that it's not blocked from refrigeration. 30% all equipment required to execute menu in its original design. That is really critical. Chef Suzanne will be referring back to your menu that's on slide 1, I believe it is, to see which equipment you've included in there. She's going to check to make sure that that equipment is in your diagram.
And I will. So if you've got on the front there that you've got deep fried food and you've got a fryer listed, and I look and there's no fryer, that's not having the equipment needed to produce the design for your menu that you had.
Yeah, we don't like that. Yeah.
We'll say, where's the deep fryer?
Yeah. How are you going to do them deep fried Twinkies, man, with no deep fryer? It's a bad thing. And then 10% goes, what's that?
I'm sorry, Chef David's got his hand up, and he has for a while. His arm's gonna fall asleep.
Oh, hey David, I couldn't see you. I'm on shared screen here.
Okay. My copy and paste hasn't been working. I've been having to Control-C, Control-V because it tells me I need to install something, but it won't allow me to install some type of plugin or something like that. I don't know if I'm the only one having that problem, but it doesn't seem to be working properly.
Okay, on your Google Drive.
Correct. Well, on when I use that the little map thing to do the tables and stuff, and when I go to try to copy it, it'll say you need to install this plugin. So I go to try to install the plugin, but it won't allow me to do that. So I've been having to Control-C, Control-V. Control-C, Control-V to do it.
That's kind of a hassle. Have you contacted technical support?
Well, I that was one of my critiques actually from my mid-course survey. I reached out to them and left them a message, and I still haven't heard from them.
Really? Okay.
I had a question about another thing that I was going to bring up to them. But yeah, I still haven't heard from them, so I'm a little frustrated with that.
Okay, what I will do is I will send them a message and let them know that there's some communication issue there, and for them to get in contact with you, and then certainly try to get in contact with them again. If it was at the beginning of the course, what happens sometimes they get killed with several hundred students, especially with the CA 102 students that are new to the computers. They get a little overwhelmed, and that's certainly no excuse. They should have gotten back to you, and I'll certainly send a message to get something done. But that's 877-224-8576. It's located at the bottom of all of our class pages, and they will certainly help you out. So. And
I was a little bit concerned with because with the food truck, there's really no front of the house. All you have is I just had 5 tables out there and like maybe like a bar set up for the condiments, but I kind of felt like I should have more, but it's a food truck. So
that's the fun thing about the food truck is that's where the food truck folks got a pretty sweet assignment this past week, because the only thing you really absolutely had to have for a food truck front of house, trash cans. Some people choose to have seating, and some have a condiment area. Some don't, because some want to keep their condiments inside and just hand them out. So the only thing that was really mandatory for a food truck front of house, trash cans.
Yeah.
There's really not much else you can put there, I guess.
Yeah. Condiment station. Yeah.
And even then, some places don't do that. Especially if there's a lot, you don't want people just coming up and taking all your silverware when they got, or ketchup when they got food from somewhere else. So a lot of places don't do that. So yeah, you just got lucky. It's okay. Enjoy that. You didn't have to do all that extra stuff.
Yep.
I thought it was a setup.
No. Wait, in all reality, we're here to help you succeed. And in that, hopefully that exercise got you to think a little bit. You mentioned earlier that you like to think outside of the box, and so hopefully that pushed it even further outside the box. And so maybe that will be that one thing that leads to success, and that's what we're hoping for. Yeah. Anyone else have any questions? Ladies and gents, thank you for a great live session. We are at the end. We are looking forward to week 4 assignments. We can't wait for them to start rolling in. And if anyone has any questions, don't forget our phone numbers are on the right-hand side of the class page. Feel free to reach out, give us a call. We are here to help. Have a great week, everybody. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.